Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Player's Take, episode 64. I am your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by my co-host, the eco-terrorist, part of Avalanche, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, man? How's it going?
Just living, playing video games, living life.
Right. I think it's pretty common sentiment, I think, around the world. Well,
Yeah.
dude, so, obviously we're living in this, quarantine times, pandemic life. And, dude, I don't know how you've been dealing with this, but my hair is gotten to the point, it's well past the point of when I normally would go get a haircut.
Yeah.
And I woke up today and I just broke. I can't do this anymore. Like it's gotten, ooh, crap. Sorry. It's gotten out of control. Like it's just, I'm waking up in the morning with cowlicks and fucking, I have like a semi mullet. It feels like when I wake up, like my hair is all over the place and I can't do it anymore. So I broke down and I bought a razor today to cut my hair, and it was quite the journey, Montrell. Let me tell you what. I was on Amazon, and while I was on Amazon looking for these fucking razors, they're selling out while I'm looking at them. And it just, everyone I was looking at just fucking sold out. Like literally to the point where Amazon like took the product page down, like while I'm looking at them. Yes, this shit has gotten out of control. Like these things are sold out all over Amazon, and I looked elsewhere too, and they're not really in stock for the most part. Like I could go to Target maybe and find one, but they're like shitty ones, like good ones that are actually, barbers might use. Those are hard to find right now. And obviously it makes sense. A lot of people are, you can't go to the hairdresser. So, but yeah, I finally found one, but it's not going to be here for 2 weeks minimum. So I'm just it's a struggle,
actually
bro.
had the same. I think we were on the same page because I did the same thing today. This weekend, I actually bought. So on Monday of last week, I want to say, or Tuesday. Actually, no, about Thursday. I went to Sally's beauty page site, and I bought me a pair of barber professional clippers, and I attempted to cut my hair. I did. It wasn't bad. I faded the sides a little bit. I think I took a little bit too high, so it looks like I got a bald fade on the side. But I mean,
did you do it yourself, or did your girlfriend help?
No, I did it myself. I I use a YouTube tutorial I found and taught you how to cut hair, and I did that. So I mean, I recommend you want to try that. You can just buy you some clippers and try it like that. It's not that hard, actually. It's just you gotta learn hand control.
I feel like for you, it's like way harder than it's gonna be for me. For me, I'm literally gonna be doing a 1 on the sides and the back, and the top will be like a 5 or a 6 probably, and that's it. I'm not gonna be like super precise or anything like that. I'm just gonna fucking buzz it and see what happens. So I'll let my wife maybe help with the sculpting part.
Man, there's a whole Reddit page dedicated to that, quarantine haircuts. It's hilarious.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, I'm sure, man. Are they posting pictures?
Yeah. They're like, oh, this is what my girlfriend or wife did, and it's hilarious.
That sounds really fun. I'll check that out later. So that's where I'm at right now. Just trying to deal with the hair. Like I've not let it grow out this much in a very long time, and I mean. Honestly, you see me and you'd be like, dude, it doesn't even look any different from normal. But it's just like 3 or 4 weeks longer than I'd usually let it grow.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's getting to the point like, because I have really greasy hair and overnight it gets really greasy. So when I wake up, it's everywhere. It's going in like 4 different directions. It's like it's just a complete mess. I got this giant curl that comes down over my forehead, and it's just it's oh my gosh, I should take a picture of it and like keep it and just drop it someday, when I'm
quarantine.
Feeling right. This is my quarantine life. It's bad. So, hopefully I can take care of that, but I got to last like 2 more weeks with this, and I don't know if I can do it. So
I think you can, man. I think you can.
I should just buzz cut it. I'm not seeing anybody anyway. So just go straight bald. See how it looks, All right. So this is a video game show. So let's get into that. So for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Let us get started, like we always do, with what we've been playing. Montrell, why don't you go ahead and get us started this week?
So I finished Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. Well, I'm almost done with Mass Effect 3, so I really stopped playing it, but I already know the ending. I finished both of those games. So for Mass Effect 3, which is interesting, I guess I said last week, the multiplayer is still alive, and I'm finding games really quickly. I don't know if because of the quarantine or whatever, but I know last week I was having issues because the EA servers were down.
That's right.
But this week, and or after that day, actually, I've been finding games like I've been customizing my searches on what maps I want to play on and everything like that nature, and I've been finding games. So I think a lot of people are playing Mass Effect again for some reason. Yeah, I really want to see the numbers on that.
I saw some clips, man. It does look pretty cool. I was like, man, why isn't the single player like this? Like, what the fuck, man? You know, you're like doing these like teleporting, slicing fucking sword attacks and shit. Like, I'm like, what the hell's going on here, man? What is this
so
game?
That's one of the classes or one of the characters within the class is called the N7 Slayer, and he's within the Vanguard class. So you can pick that character, and it's like 20 characters within each class. So you got different characters within that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, look pretty cool. Well, so soon. I mean, now that you're kind of close to done with the trilogy, like, I know I asked you this last week, but you know, now that you're a little further, what are your feelings overall on the three games? I guess, like, how would you rank them? I guess 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3. It's hard to rank, right? Because they both excel in different things differently. If you want to go for overall experience, I would say 2, 1, 3.
Okay. I think that's where my head's at right now. But
yeah, if you want to talk about pure gameplay, it's definitely 3, 2, 1. And then for story, I'm on the fence between 1 and 2 being top contenders, and then 3 being last.
Yeah.
I think 1 and 2 are really up there as far as story wise, both for different reasons though. So it's like if you want to talk about the main story, then definitely 1. But if you just want to talk about overall development of the world, then I'll say 2, because 2 it branches off, it carries on with 1 does, and it does a lot better in my opinion. I will say I was on Twitter discussing Mass Effect with everyone, and they feel like Mass Effect 3 is the worst because of the ending. And I can understand that sentiment. I remember I had the same feelings about it, and I talked to you about it like once. This was like maybe when we first got there, and you said that, you know, the journey in 3 is what makes 3 which makes it worth it in your opinion. I mean, of course, the endings suck. It's just it is what it is with that. But I feel the same way. I feel like the journey that you take, even in 3, does negate how bad the ending is. Like I can forget about that because the journey was so good.
Right.
The DLC and everything like that, it was still really good in my opinion. And this game was actually 60 hours. When I beat it, I clocked it at 60 hours. Yeah.
Wow. Damn.
60 hours, and it was 60 hours
way
for Mass
longer
Effect
than
2.
2. Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Both of them were 60 hours. So
I guess that's with all the DLC though, right?
Yeah, it is with all the DLC. So
okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, 3, I think 3's got a lot of great stories in the game. Assuming you do everything. I think that's kind of what Mass Effect always is excelled at, is that's kind of the thing, is if you're going to get the most out of the game, you really have to play the whole game. You know, you can't just blast through the main story and get, you know, what Mass Effect is trying to convey to you. You know, I feel like a lot of the game is the side stories.
Yeah.
And that's especially true in 3. There's so much closure to so many arcs in that game. Oh my gosh, excuse me. There's tons of closure in that game to a ton of different characters' arcs. And yes, while the overall arc of the series is not really ended super well, I do think that game has a lot of great moments in it. It's just that there's so many issues in terms of design, in terms of like side quest design and stuff, and the whole battle power or military power. I forget what the hell it's called.
Yeah, the war readiness. That's
war readiness, or whatever the hell it was. That was one of the most ill-conceived mechanics, I think, in the series. And unfortunately, I think it kind of drags that game down quite a bit, because it just I don't know. It drags it down, but at the same time, it makes me feel like, the series has always been about the stories themselves and not necessarily the rewards you get for those stories. So I don't know. It might not really matter at the end of the day, because the stories are still high quality in those side quests. But it just, that mechanic as a whole, though, just didn't hit for me in that game. So, but I'm kind of getting back into a headspace where I might jump back into that trilogy and finish it after I'm done with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So we'll see if my opinion changes playing it now.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell they rushed through some things, but like you said, I do like how they close out a lot of character arcs. I thought a lot of it was really worth it. Like I really like Morden's character arc.
Yeah, no, his is great.
Yeah, because this is like his little catchphrase that he says, like someone else may get it wrong and everything like that. Like you have to really play the game and talk to those characters to understand, the things that they say and why they say them and things of that nature. Things, character arc ending and all the other stuff like that. I think I still think the game shines as much flack as it get. They still did a good job with it, but it is a lot of stuff they can improve on. I don't think that personally. I don't think Mass Effect 3 killed the series. I think Andromeda did.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, and a lot of people were saying that Mass Effect 3 did, and then Andromeda was a nail in the coffin. I think Andromeda did both. Like, I don't think Mass Effect 3 was like the end of all. Everyone was still waiting for like another game. We didn't know where we can go with it, but we were just waiting where you can do with it. And Andromeda proved that you couldn't really go anywhere else with it. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to finish Andromeda. I don't have it on my list right now, but I am going to go back and play it.
I am too.
Once we get done with Final Fantasy VII. And I'm also playing Digimon Cyber Sleuth. That's the turn-based game from Digimon.
Okay. Is this so when you say turn-based, are we talking like Final Fantasy turn-based, or are we talking like, okay.
Final Fantasy turn-based, you got 3 Digimon in your party, and you go on and do adventures. The story is really good, actually. It's actually a pretty compelling story.
You're surprised.
Yeah, I am surprised, because I mean, Digimon usually has a good story in anyway, but it's really good. I'm still playing Neo 2. I haven't beat it yet, because I haven't really. I'm trying to wait, so because I'm going to play it with you. So whenever you're ready, I'm trying to wait. So I'm just going to put it on the back burner for right now.
Man, I got to get through it, man. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So
it's on the priority list.
Yeah, and I didn't put it on the list. I have enough time, but I'm also replaying Dragon Age because I never finished the game. So I'm going to go back and I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to play Inquisition. Yeah, I do want to go back and try to finish the first one though.
First one's good, man. First one's really good. I like Dragon Age 1 a lot.
I think I have enough patience now for that, so I'm going to go back and play it. So.
I mean, that's one of the last games that still has that old BioWare feel to it, in my opinion. Yeah. It was made in the middle of the Mass Effect trilogy being made, I think. So it has that very similar style to Mass Effect, actually, where your party, they have their own stories and stuff, and you get to know them, and there's a lot of that same kind of design in there. Obviously, it's an isometric, pause-based action RPG. So it is a lot different in terms of combat, but it still has a lot of the same story beats, or not beats, but like design style that Mass Effect does. So
I'm gonna go through that trilogy, and that'll probably be within the next 2 weeks. So I'm just trying to get through my backlog. So I got a whole bunch of stuff that I want to play and everything like that. So
word. Okay. Well, I've been playing not a lot, honestly. Ever since I finished Berwick Saga last week, I felt, that feeling you get when you beat something like truly great, and you just feel that void in you that no game can fill. I was kind of in that mode for the majority of last week, and I was really only playing Apex and Gwent for the most part. Apex Legends and Gwent. I did play. I kind of burnt myself out on Apex though on Friday and Saturday. I think I played about 16 hours between both days with Jet and Snakes. And
Jesus.
man, I mean, dude, I'm telling you though, I think we got 9 or 10 wins in that time frame. And like we were killing it, dude. We were killing it. But it's just like I think by Sunday I was like, I don't even want to see this game for like 3 or 4 days. And that's where I'm at right now with it. So I think I'm gonna play tomorrow or Friday for sure. But I'm like just I kind of burnt myself out on it. Gwent playing more. Nothing more to say on that. I also decided to download and try Legends of Runeterra. The League of Legends card game, and I played about 2 or 3 hours of it, and I gotta say, this game impressed me quite a bit. If I'm being honest, I was really surprised by how well designed it is. I gotta hand it to them. They've made a game that is really tight and feels really, I'll say really fair. Like I don't think I think there's definitely the capability of steamrolling in this game, just like in Hearthstone or any other competitive game. But I think it's all about smart play. I don't think there's not a lot of randomness in this game beyond your card draws, and the way you approach each turn matters a lot in this game. And I think the card design is actually really good as well. Just what the units do and their powers, but the game's interesting because it has the champions from League in it. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. And they're their own classification of cards called champions. And they are pretty OP, a lot of them. And they have this ability to level up. Like they have a condition that you have to meet, and then they'll level up and they'll get more powerful and they'll get like an additional ability or something like that.
Okay.
And as crazy as that sounds, it's really not that unbalanced though, because they're not that crazy powerful. They're actually fairly easy to remove if you're not careful with them. So it's interesting that dynamic versus normal units is actually balanced really well. I feel like in the game, plays well as a result, because you can have these really dynamic decks where you don't have any heroes in them, or you can have a deck that's really centered on the champions. And like tries to use them most, or you can have a combination of the two. You can have spells versus units and whatnot. So there's a lot in the game that's really interesting. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it. I don't think I want to play 2 games at once, but it was intriguing enough for me. And honestly, the game is really generous with free stuff. From what I can tell, like I already got a lot of cards just playing 2 or 3 hours last week. And the game has a lot of free things you can get after your initial tutorial, and it doesn't seem like it has an endpoint that's that attainable. Like it's going to take you some time to get all the free shit. So, and by the time you do, you're going to have a large majority of the cards.
Okay.
So it's like spending money in this game, it almost feels like they're almost too generous. It makes me wonder how they're going to make money off the game, but I'm sure they'll figure it out in terms of like cosmetics and stuff like that. That's kind of how Gwent makes their money, because they're similarly generous in terms of giving players a lot of resources and cards and stuff for free. So it's an interesting game. I think if you're into card games, but like what's out there right now is not appealing to you, try this out. It's a little bit more in line with like Hearthstone and Magic, I'd say, but it's different enough from those games that I think it will stand out on its own, and kind of has its own little niche that it'll build to me. So definitely worth a shot there. So I was pretty impressed with that. I don't have this on the list, but I have been playing Darkest Dungeon a little bit more too. I probably put about 3 to 4 hours into this over the weekend. And I'm getting a little deeper in it. I beat the first boss actually, and it's a fun game, man. I really like the town management aspect of the game and the way that you're supposed to kind of manage your heroes and stuff. The game is really cool in that regard. I like how you got to kind of balance your money with what you need to buy every single week, because you need supplies to go into the dungeon, so you need a certain amount of money for that. But you also want to upgrade your characters, you want to upgrade the town, you want to upgrade your weapons and armor and stuff. So it's like there's a lot to kind of suck your resources in, and I think the game is very it's really appealing. I don't know if I'm gonna like dive deep in it to the point where I'm playing it constantly, but it feels like a game I'm gonna kind of play 3 or 4 hours a week for a while.
Gotcha.
So really cool game there. Otherwise, we've both been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I finally started it. I started it last week for like a couple hours, but I really got into it on Sunday night, and then I've been playing it all week pretty much. So we are both, you told me before the show, we're kind of both around the same spot. I'm about halfway to 2/3 of the way through Chapter 8, and you just got to Chapter 8, you said?
Well, I did just get to Chapter 8. So I'm at the part where, Aerith goes into the orphanage to deliver the flowers, and she's like, go to the village and walk around a little bit while I do this. So
yeah,
that's
you're like an hour to an hour and a half behind me, maybe then.
Okay.
In that case, I'm in the middle of doing like side quests for Chapter 8, so yeah, so there's not much for you to get there. Okay, so I mean, what are your thoughts on the game so far? I'd say I'm about 12 hours in right now. That's what my play clock says.
I am actually very impressed with the game. Yeah, I'm very impressed with it. Nomura knocked us out the park with this game.
Yeah,
I'll start with my bad stuff about the game. I don't think there's enough encounters. That's like really my biggest quarrel with the game.
Yep.
I don't really think there's enough enemies encounters in the game.
I don't disagree with you. And it seems like random encounters, like it's hard to get into encounters outside of when the game lets you.
Yeah.
Like you can't just go into a field and fight things.
Yeah. And I want to go into a field and fight things so I can get more used to the combat system.
Right.
Because honestly, I didn't even use Punisher mode until you fight one of the bosses.
The duel
before
or
Chapter
whatever,
8.
The first duel.
Yeah. So I didn't use Punisher mode that much. I don't think the game lets you get acquainted enough with the combat system to get used to it, to get to memorize the buttons and the menu and everything of that nature.
And what enemy does what ability and when to use, Punisher mode versus not.
Exactly. Yeah. I do like another thing I don't like. I guess the encounters and then the way the story flows. I love the story itself. I love the voice acting and everything of that nature. I guess that just goes back into with the combat or with the not enough combat, because everything flows in and out. Your party members jumping in and out, and you just can't get used to them because they keep jumping in and out. And it's like when you do get used to them, between like chapter 6 and 7, I believe.
Yep.
Like I was maining Tifa, and because I really like using that character. Tifa is like a really cool character to use.
Yes.
And I was maining her, and then she gets taken away from me, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, now I gotta get used to Cloud again. So it's like I'm hoping in the next game when you actually leave Midgar, like that's where they kind of like, okay, you can just go crazy in the open field and start, But the things I do like, I love the story. So far, I mean, it is typical Final Fantasy, but they did change some stuff. The voice acting is really good. I want to know what kind of program they're using, because I think they're using some kind of program or engine for like automated face generation when people are talking, because it's not all handcrafted, if that makes any sense. Like they're definitely using some kind of engine for that. I think that's very interesting. I love the combat. The combat is just phenomenal. I don't think I died twice maybe, but I do wish it was a little bit harder. I hope there's like a harder mode that comes out.
There is a hard mode. Okay, no, there's a hard mode after you beat the game. I think it's basically New Game Plus.
Okay.
You don't have it unlocked at the get-go, which I actually kind of found a little disappointing, because I think you carry things over into a second playthrough, so it's like gonna be easier just because of that. So it would have been interesting to me to play from scratch on hard, to see how hard that is.
Yeah. Besides that, I mean, I think they handled magic really well. I think they handled how each character has a different battle style really well. I don't know, man. I think this is looking like a masterpiece. I wouldn't say it just now. I know it's like first game jitters, but
right.
I gotta give it some more time before I can even label it a classic yet. But it is really, really good. It's I feel like how we said last week or a couple of weeks ago, or maybe we said it off mic. I think we learned a lot from Final Fantasy 15, and you can see he learned a lot from Final Fantasy 15 and put that directly into this game. It's a little bit more linear for my taste, but it is now that's interesting. This game has followed the Final Fantasy 13 trend.
Yeah, and no one has okay. Can we talk about this real quick? Because the internet fucking loves this game, and it is linear as fuck. Like it railroads you so hard in this game. There's so little exploration in it, and the internet loves it. Can we just point that out? Because Final Fantasy 13 is one of the most hated games I've ever seen. Like the amount of hate that game gets because it's linear, and this game is definitely more linear than that game, I would say. Like there's almost no exploration, period. It's just a hilarious irony that to me that it's like people are cherry picking what they like and what they don't like depending on what it is. You know, it's cool to hate on Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 7 though, can't say anything bad about that game. You know.
Yeah, you're right. That's my biggest criticism of the game. Honestly, it holds your hand so much, like you can't do anything.
Right.
And,
well, yeah.
It's just crazy, man.
Well, so to me, it makes sense because this game, I feel like, is that early part of any JRPG, right? This whole game is that part, like the first 25%, or 30, first 25 to 33%. Where the game's like teaching you all the mechanics and introducing you to all the characters and letting you like learn about the world and stuff. It's that part of the game where you don't have full access to things, where you can't just run around and do whatever you want. You don't have like the open world available to you. You can't just fight encounters whenever you want. Like the game kind of like pulls you along until it believes you're ready. And that whole game, that this game feels like the whole game is that, and it's probably by design because the game's going to be 2 or 3 parts, right? So that's just the nature of the beast, I feel like, in this case. And I think this game is as good as it feels now. I think it's going to play a lot better when the whole trilogy is out. And it's like really is that first third of a 3-part series, and you can play the second part immediately, I'm
looking at it like a Mass Effect thing. I think they're going to change a lot of stuff when the second part comes out.
Well, they're going to have to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay. I guess I'm gonna give you some generic thoughts too first, and then we can kind of get into semi spoilers. I don't want to talk story specifics necessarily, but some things that might be spoilers. So in terms of the general stuff about kind of what you outlined as well, I also think the story is phenomenal. This game is fixing a problem that I had with the original version of Final Fantasy VII, and I may go back someday and play Final Fantasy VII, the old version of it, just to see if I like feel the same way I do about it right now or prior to playing this game. Is that I think that game, the reason it never resonated with me is that it just didn't present the story in a very coherent way. And a lot of that had to do with the crappy translation that game had, but it also had to do with the graphical style and just the way the game was, and playing that game in 2008 or 2009, whenever I played it, I don't think I was ever going to love it because of when I played it, and that's not necessarily fair to the game, but it is what it is, whereas this game is like, I get everything with this game, like the story, like it makes perfect sense. Everything makes sense. I understand what everybody's doing. Like there's no confusion, there are obviously some story beats that aren't like hitting home yet, but that's because the game hasn't like revealed why they should hit home, but the dialogue in this game, there are some awkward bits of it. It definitely has that like awkward JRPG-ness to it sometimes, but I don't personally care about that generally. And also, I find this game really charming. I love all the characters, basically, like almost every single one of them. Like they're all endearing in their own ways. And I think they've done a really great job of giving these characters personality, and the personality that veterans would expect these characters to have too. I feel like, because the only one I'd say that has kind of thrown me off a little bit so far is Aerith, I'd say.
Oh my gosh, she's so fucking annoying, bro.
We'll get into her in a little bit, like when we start talking semi-spoilers. But overall, I really like most of the characters, and I love what they've done with Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. I think
they gave them so much. They gave them a bigger part in this game.
It's awesome, dude. I love it. I love it. Those 3 characters are great, and I love the fact that they have a much more prominent role than they did in the original version of the game. So I love that. Some of these changes are great. So in terms of the story overall, I really like the story so far too. I like the fact that there are really intense sections of the game, and then there are really, really slow sections of the game. I like that a lot. I like that kind of pacing personally. I don't think a story should be 24/7 driving like 100 miles an hour. You know,
Yeah.
and the slow sections to me, frankly, are really where you flesh your characters out, and that's what they're doing with this in this game with those sections, and they've done a good job of it personally. That's why these characters, I find them endearing, because those moments are where you really learn about them, and there are a lot of good moments there. So I'm enjoying that as well. With the combat, I agree with you largely. I think the combat is really good. It plays really well. I am surprised they pulled this off as well as they did. Now, the only thing I'm kind of concerned about is the point in the game I'm at now is I'm wondering if we've kind of unlocked everything the game has to offer in terms of combat depth, and this is the game, kind of going forward. I'm wondering if there's more, and if there isn't more, I almost feel like it's a little shallow. If you get what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Because there's good character like development here in terms of like character progression and leveling, but I think the game's going to get really boring after 2 more games if this is all they have. You know what I mean? Like, I think for this game it'll be fine, but I think for the next game they're going to need to layer kind of something else on here, I think, to really keep people engaged.
Well, they're just going to have to improve I don't want to say streamline it. They have to improve the way you actually do the combat.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Because it has the potential to be very great. I don't think they need to layer a whole bunch of mechanics on it.
I'm not saying a ton of stuff, but I feel like it's missing something,
I just feel like we don't have enough time to play with it, in my opinion. I feel like it is deep. It can get deep if you want to, because I've seen some people already pull out some crazy combos. Yeah. I just haven't got to that point to where I can do that. If that makes any sense. Like
I feel like I'm doing that now. I feel like I've gotten to that point now where I'm really like hitting timings, like specific timings with things. Like right when I pressure an enemy, I'm using like Cloud's like thrust attack to throw their stagger gauge up like immediately. I'm like starting to hit those combos up. But like you said, I do agree with you with that. The game does not give you enough time to actually play the combat. Chapters 6 and 7 were really the best parts of the game so far, because those were the first time I felt like you had the whole party finally. Well, not everybody, but you had like a full party. You had 3
had a full party,
and you were actually like fighting a lot. There was a lot of combat
dungeon.
there.
You were
literally in a dungeon, right? Yeah. And it was a long dungeon too. It was like 2 or 3 hours at least, maybe even 4. Between the 2 chapters, and there were multiple boss fights, and so that's the best section of the game so far, because there was a lot of combat and exploration within there. There were puzzles. There was a lot in there. Like, they did a good job. There was side stuff you didn't have to get, but if you wanted to make the effort, it was worth it.
Speaking of that, I like how the character will say something if you're about to go to the next section and you miss something. They're like, "Hey, you sure you don't want to go back and get this?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck yeah, I do want to go back and get it." I like that shit.
Yeah, no, that is cool. I also like when you go to a side section, the characters will like say like, "Hey, this isn't the way we're supposed to go." I think that is funny too. So, yeah. So in terms of combat's good. The side quests, I give or take on those. I don't think they're super great. They're very fetch questy. There's not much to them, but there are some story things unlocked by doing them that are optional, that are really cool. Like, there's a scene with Tifa in Chapter 3. If you do all the side quests in Chapter 3, you get a scene that you wouldn't get otherwise. So that's kind of cool, actually. I do like that. How do you feel about the design, though, of the side quests where they kind of throw them all at you and you have to do them that moment? You can't, like, go forward in the story and come back,
That's just my play style, so I don't mind it. But I can see how it's a problem for other people who like to just go do the story and then maybe come to a point where, like, okay, I'm at a point where I can just do the side quest. Because I do play certain games like that. I play The Witcher like that. Progress.
Xenoblade, I played like that too. I I don't think it's a problem for me in this game necessarily because there aren't that many side quests and they don't take very long. You can do all of them in a chapter in about an hour to an hour and a half, which is not very long. So as long as that continues to be true, I won't have an issue with it. But when you get to a point in the game where it takes 4 hours to do all the side quests, that's going to start to wear on me a little bit. So I don't think it's going to be a problem in this game, but the next one maybe if that continues in that game, that definitely could be an issue. But
yeah. I'm sorry. You say I'm sorry.
Nope. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say like with the next game and everything like that, or with this game, and I gotta give props to them more because not because I'm a fanboy, but because he didn't listen to the fanboys. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because God forbid, if he listened to the fanboys, we would have had another Final Fantasy 15. Because everyone thought that game was perfect, and he proved that that game's not perfect by making this game. So I feel like I have faith in him for the remake part 2. That he's going to improve the stuff that no one's really saying right now. Because a lot of people are, I think, either scared to say it or they just don't see it. The stuff that we're saying right now, the level design and the enemy encounters. That needs to be fixed. We need more time with the combat. So I feel like the next game we're going to get a lot more time with that in the side quest, the fetch side quest thing. I didn't mind how fast they were, like you said, because they're only like an hour and a half. But I'm doing the same fetch quest for 4 hours in the next game because I think that's supposed to be the more open world aspect of it. Then that can get very boring very quickly.
Yeah, and I think graphically though, this game is gorgeous. I can't believe how beautiful Square makes their games. It's like unbelievable to me that what they pull off on these consoles, dude. Like it's like wild. Like it's one of the most beautiful games I've seen, and Midgar is just so awesomely realized. Like it's such a awesome place, like the way it looks and the way they designed it. And I love some of the like throwbacks in the design too to like the old games kind of art style, where they have those like almost like 2D backgrounds, but it's not like often, but you'll see it every once in a while. Like in the opening cinematic, I feel like there was like a smokestack coming out of the Mako reactor, and I'm calling it Mako. I'm not calling it Mako. Fuck that shit. It was coming out of the Mako reactor, and it had that like 2D style from the old game, if you know what I mean. And it's just like such a cool looking design to that. So I love some of that. I think Midgar is just so cool. The environments I've seen so far.
They have a lot of personality. I don't feel like they got that within the original game. As much as it tried to give you that personality, Midgar, especially the slums of Midgar, like it has so much personality. Because if I recall, I gotta go back and play the original game, but you don't really get that in depth with Midgar until you leave or whatever the case.
No, I think I was wrong about this a while back too. I said that Midgar was a larger portion of the game than it was. A lot of people are saying it's only about 6 or 7 hours of the game, which is not very much. And so they fleshed it out a lot more than the original game kind of did. You got some of the big beats of seeing how bad the slums were, but you didn't like go really deep with it the way this game is. This game's really giving you a very clear picture of things, I feel like, in terms of the class kind of divide between the people on the plate and the people under the plate. And I just think it's so cool too to just like look around and just look and see the plate, you know.
That's really cool.
You're just looking up at it and you can see like the suns or whatever, the artificial suns, and then you can see the wall around Midgar, and it's like it's crazy how large it is, you know, how big of a place it is. They could legitimately make an entire game just in the city. I feel like that's how large of a place it is.
I'm like you said, I'm just blown away by the graphic. I don't know if you ever watched that Final Fantasy VII movie, Advent Children. It looks just like that, and it's fucking mind blowing to me how I remember when I was like younger and that movie came out, and I was like, man, if we can get a game just like this, that would be amazing. And we got that game, and it's still mind blowing to me when I'm playing this game. It's just crazy, man. The graphics, I don't know how they pulled this off in the PS4. Maybe that's because it is within like the settings that it's within are like it's linear, so they have more time to push more stuff within
That's
that linear
true.
section.
Yeah, that's true. It is super linear, so they don't have to render as much.
Yeah.
Not nearly as much as some other games like Witcher or something like that.
So I think maybe that's it. So I'm almost guaranteed that the next game is going to be on the PS5 or Xbox Series X1.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. Yeah, which
I'm
is exciting.
yeah,
To
because
see what
if
they
they
can
did
do.
this with this game, I can't even imagine what they're going to do with that type of hardware in the next game. So
right.
I think they did a pretty good call. And honestly, I'll be honest. They do come up with a Final Fantasy 16. Maybe they should just make that episodic game as well. Like instead of trying to make the whole game and making us wait
Yeah.
7 to 8
Yeah.
years for it,
Yeah.
just release the first part of the game,
Yeah.
and then that way it can fund the second part of the game and the third part of the game.
You know,
That makes
this has got to be a first. I think a lot of people would agree with you, because I can't believe I'm like gonna actually defend episodic here, but I think it makes sense for Square Enix.
Yeah.
The way they develop, like I think making it in bite-sized chunks that they can handle works for them. Like it's this is the best game they've made in I'm like trying to think back. Like what was the last game I thought was this good? Maybe like for me personally, like Last Remnant maybe.
Yeah.
That was like 12 years ago, like or 11 years ago. Like and they made this game in like 2 or 3 years. That just seems insane, but they did it. They literally did it, So, I don't know, man.
It's a nice chunk. I think, I mean, people were telling me that the game is about 40 hours average, 35 to 40 hours average.
Right.
But it's still a nice chunk. Like, you can't complain about that. Like, if you get that in the episode, right? Like, when we think about episodic games, you're like, oh, you only get like maybe 10 hours.
No, not even 2 hours. It's
2
like 2 or
hours,
3 hours, yeah.
And you gotta wait till next week till the next part of the game comes out. Well, if they do it like this, I can survive off this game for about maybe another 2 years, and then like, okay, I'm ready for the next game to come out, and it'll already be out. Because I guarantee you, they just went straight into development on the second part.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
I guarantee you,
they've probably been working on it for months, I would imagine, with like another team, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean the way this game is too, I am like, I feel like I'm gonna play it again at some point in the future, probably before the second part comes out, because the game doesn't feel like it takes forever to play. That's actually something I really enjoy about this game, is that it's not like Xenoblade, where like Xenoblade I feel like I play and I accomplish nothing in like 4 hours in a night, because the way that game is, it's like super grindy, the combat's slow or start slow, and the side quests take forever, and there's a lot of exploration. This game is like the complete polar opposite of that, where 4 hours for me in this game, I've gotten through like 2 chapters of the game and I'm like fucking flying. It's a really refreshing difference in design for a JRPG, I feel like, for me, and it's making it so that I want to play this game more. Like I really want to play this game more. I don't feel like I'm like, oh God, I'm not going to do anything tonight in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, no, I'm going to get a shitload done. Like, I can play for an hour or two and get a lot done,
So I was initially against the way I was playing the game and the way the game was presented to me, but then I started to like it. How you were mentioning, I can play this game in bites. I can play this game in chunks. Like I can play an hour of this game and get a lot done within an hour. And then I can put the controller down, go do something else. Or if I just, I don't want to say get bored, but like, you just want to play something else, I can do that. Or I can play like 2 hours of the game, then play something else, then come back and play the game again and know exactly what I'm doing and where I need to go and things of that nature. It's just the way the game's designed, which is really good. And I don't know how they did that, because I was almost against it when I first played it. Then I noticed I was coming back to it. I just kept coming back to it. And I like it. Compared to like you said, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I feel like if I go like, or The Witcher, if I go like 2 or 3 days without playing that game, I kind of forget what I'm doing. I'm like, oh shit, what am I doing?
Right.
Yeah, but this game is like, I don't know, it's just refreshing just to play the game, and the game is actually on pace with you and like your quality of life or whatever the case may be. And I don't know how you pulled that off, but you did.
Right. Okay. So I guess this will be the cutoff point where we talk a little bit of spoilers. I don't want to like go super deep on story right here, but I want to talk about some things about like the future episodes a little bit, in terms of kind of what I think they're going to do there. So if you don't want to hear any of that, you don't want to hear us talk about like specific character moments or some things that have happened in the game up to chapter 8, then, skip ahead a little bit. I don't think we'll be talking about this for 30 minutes, but, maybe 10 or 15 minutes here. So the first thing I want to touch on, I guess, is like playing this game has made me feel like the next episode and the one after that, they're going to be vastly different from this game. This game is going to be really, really its own thing, I feel like, compared to the other two, because the second you leave Midgar, you're in an open world game, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to have to be so different from this game in terms of the way they build the game. I mean, I could see them continuing this style with it and do almost like a Tales style of thing where you have it's open world, but you're kind of like in like some almost like tunnels almost that are like really large.
Yeah.
I could see something like that, but I almost feel like, I mean, since it's going to be on PS5 and Xbox Series X, or actually, I don't even know if it's on Xbox, but
well, it is gonna. It's not. It's a yearly exclusive, time exclusive. So next year, this game's going to be released on Xbox and PC. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same for the second and third part.
Second and third parts. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be in the new console, so they'll be able to do a lot more. And it just makes me wonder, like, what are they going to choose to do? Are they going to go the full open world route, the way like Witcher is, where it's like crazy open, or are they going to go more, like I said, like Tales, where it's like kind of like big contained areas that you can walk around in, more like that.
I think they should do like the big contained areas. Like there is an open world you can travel in between, but like a lot of the side quests are within that contained area, right? You enter an area and then that's the contained area. But maybe I'm just thinking like, I'm still thinking in old school or current hardware terms. Maybe they can just make a crazy amount of side quests within the open world and have dynamic things happen within that said open world and everything.
But is that the right choice though for this game? I almost feel like
I don't think so. I think that would be a detriment to the game
because it's going to be such a tonal shift in game design from this one that I don't know if people are going to like it. If they get used to the way this game is, in terms of like the linearity of it. Like you said, it needs to be more open than this one is, but I don't think it needs.
I don't want it to be Xenoblade Chronicles open or Witcher open.
Right.
I just want. If I was to tone it down, I know you haven't played this game, but for people who have, it should be on the level, almost on the level of Final Fantasy 13 2. Because that game almost was a direct answer to what Final Fantasy 13 had issues with it being linear. Final Fantasy 13 2 took that linearly. They had parts where it was linear, but then they had parts within it where the dungeon was just like super open, or the towns were just super open. You do quests within certain towns and things of that nature, and that's why I like that game so much. So maybe they should do that within the next game.
Well, Last Remnant's actually another good example of this. If you play that game has contained areas, but they're very large, and there's a lot of like branching paths and stuff within them, but it's not like open world. I wouldn't describe that game's areas as open world. But I think that game would be a good template for them for what I think they should do with the next game in terms of area design.
On Steam too. I might go back and play that.
So yeah, I just find that interesting, like playing this game and seeing it, like what are they going to do with the next game? Because it's just, that is a hard choice for them to make, because the original game was a fully open game, right? Like obviously it was an old school JRPG, but everything was available to you. You could explore the whole world by the end of the game, pretty much, and you had like a fucking airship by the end of the game. So it's like, how are they going to handle things like that, I find that really interesting, and I'm going to be really interested to see what they do.
Well, they may scrap the airship, and they may just have one particular open world where, because this game doesn't have random encounters, right? So they can just have the monsters roam the field, and that would be your random encounters. They respawn and everything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think they can do it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Almost like Xenoblade Chronicles, how they have the monsters just roaming the fields. Yeah.
But I'm just excited to see it. So, but outside of that, in terms of like characters, so in terms of specific characters, I just want to comment about how thirsty the female characters are in this game. It's fucking crazy. They are all over. They're
think it's just
all over
one.
Cloud's nuts, dude. Like, in
I
my
think it's
opinion.
just one character, and
I
that's
mean,
what's her face,
yes,
Jessie.
Jessie for sure. But I feel like Tifa definitely is like the least with this. But I feel like Aerith so far is like fucking all over him. Like, she's just like playing with him and shit. Like, it's pretty hilarious, but it is interesting. It's really funny that it's like the opposite side of the spectrum where like the women are thirsty ones in this game versus the men. Because Cloud's like completely oblivious for the most part and like barely even acknowledges what they're saying half the time. So I just find that funny. But despite that, I do like all these characters.
What do you think of Cloud? So I was talking to somebody about it, and I was like, well, they're like, why do you like Zach so much compared to Cloud? And I'm like, well, I like Zach because he has a lot of personality. And they made an argument that saying you can tell that Cloud has personality, but he's putting on this facade that he's something that he's not. He's trying to act like he's a hardcore badass and very stoic and everything like that, but he's actually not like that. So I went into it after I had that conversation with him. I started looking at the game Cloud in that manner, and it actually makes me like him a lot more than what they were portraying him as. And I didn't get that. I did get that sense that he was, because in the first game, in the original, if I'm not mistaken, I gotta go back and play it. Honestly, he was a silent protagonist, right? He
wasn't. I don't think he was a silent protagonist.
Okay.
And this is the problem with the original game, and this is what my issue with it was. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was a silent protagonist, but if he was, that's part of the problem with why I don't like Cloud, because you don't get a personality out of him in the original game, in my opinion, until very late in the game.
Exactly.
And it's just, I don't understand why people like him so much as a result. This version of Cloud, I feel like, is way more interesting because I totally agree with the person you were talking about. There is very clearly a personality underneath the surface with Cloud, and it's come out in like little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Occasionally, like when he's like alone with Tifa briefly and like even talking to Aerith, like there's a lot of like jokes with him. Like he jokes with the other characters. He does it in his like really monotone, serious way, but he is joking with them. You know, the way he was talking to like Wedge, he's like, don't call me bro. I'm not your bro or whatever. It's like, it's funny, So there's like a peak of a personality there, but definitely I agree with that person. I think it's clearly the way they're trying to portray him is that he's putting on a facade. And I think some people see through it for sure. And I think others, don't. But it'll be interesting to see how far they go with that idea, like late in the other games, like in the future games, like how much of that gets peeled back, the further into this game we go.
I'm really hoping it gets peeled back a lot, because like I like those characters, but only to a certain extent. Right? I call them the Sasuke syndrome characters. I can only deal with those characters for so long.
He's totally Sasuke.
Okay. Yeah,
he's totally Sasuke. Yeah,
and I can only deal with those type of characters for so long before I get annoyed with them. I think like Riku had that kind of aspect to him, but Riku was a little bit more outgoing throughout the games.
Mm-hmm.
But like Vegeta, right? He had that where he's just like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody, and blah blah blah. Blah.
Right,
but then he started to just have character development over the series, and I feel like Cloud is going to have that. I just hope the writing continues in that direction, because you're right. I do see it like, I'm not your bro, or he makes little jokes with Wedge, and he even catches himself making jokes with other people, and they're like, oh, you're laughing, you're smiling. And he's like, no, actually, I'm not smiling.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's pretty cool, because Jesse's actually, I think that character is really, that's why they developed those characters, Wedge, Jesse, and Biggs, to layer him back more. Because you didn't get that in the first game.
Yeah, because I feel like Jesse and Wedge in particular are actually breaking through his barrier more than anybody else. Yeah. I feel like, particularly Jesse, because she's coming on so strong to him. But it's like, but it works though, because he's like, it's like he's letting his guard down around them, and he's not even realizing he's doing it.
Exactly
those moments, and I love that. Whereas with Tifa, he's a lot more on guard for the most part. And I definitely feel like with Aerith too, though, like she's even breaking his barrier down somewhat, because like she's going at him so much, and he's just like, God, like there's a point of frustration he hits in chapter 8, and it's really fucking funny because you can tell he's just like, God, this chick is like annoying as fuck. Like he's sick of her, but like, he's not a bad person though, so he doesn't just like fucking abandon her or whatever. But so it is funny. I like these interactions. They're very well done, I feel like, and there's a lot of subtlety to them. I think they pulled it off very well. And like you were saying earlier, I think the voice actors have done a great job. They're all really good. I don't have a really complaint about any of them.
I'm playing in English too, by the way, guys. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm playing the dub, and yeah, no, it's really good. Like, I fucking love Barrett, dude. I can't wait.
Oh my god,
he's so great, dude. He's so funny. I
didn't like that character before, but I love him now.
But dude, he's awesome. He's so funny, man. He's so great. Oh, it's so good. Like when he starts getting buddy with Cloud a little bit in chapters 6 and 7, like it's so fun to me. And Cloud's just kind of like, whatever. But then like in the heat of battle though, he's like really putting in his trust in Barrett. And I like to see that. It's great. Like the two of them kind of almost came to an understanding at the end of that chapter.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. So I'm really excited to see how that develops further through the rest of this game and even in the future games, So these character dynamics are cool. I'm really digging them, and I think they're doing they did a really good job with it. So it's one of the best, like, I feel like it's one of the best JRPG stories I've experienced in quite a while. As much as I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I just don't think that game is like at this caliber personally, and that's saying a lot for me.
Yeah. Because that game has some good character moments, in my opinion.
Right,
too.
it does. It definitely does. But I'd say this game is like up there with like the original Xenoblade for me in terms of like story and character development within the party. And that is high praise coming from me. So I'm really impressed with what they've done on that front in this game so far.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for it, though. But you can continue. I bounce off of you.
No, it's all right. We've been talking about this for a while. We've got half a game left to play, so we'll talk more about it, I'm sure, next week. I don't know if I'm going to finish it this week. I'm kind of hoping I do. I'd really like to finish it before the next episode, so we'll talk more about it next week when we can have kind of more full thoughts about it. So, all right. I think that's all we've been playing, right? You don't have anything else? All right, let's move on to the news. We don't have a lot of news this week, but some interesting stuff. So first story, we've been talking about Geforce now since it came out in, I think it was February, and how they've been losing games left and right. Well, that has continued this past week, and they are going to be losing a bunch of games. So they are losing titles from Xbox Game Studios, Warner Brothers, Codemasters, and Clay Entertainment, or Clay. I don't know how to say that. But they also announced, though, along with this, that they are going to be getting games back from Epic Games, Valve, Bungie, Bandai Namco. And Ubisoft is going to be bringing a bunch of their games into the service, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry games into the service. So it seems like they're kind of in the midst of losing games but gaining games back. So I think as they kind of talk to companies, they're coming to an agreement with them. And I did do some reading on this service to kind of understand the business model a little bit more with it. And it is really interesting. So obviously you have to own the game you want to play on GeForce Now already, which means the people who made it, the publisher and developer, already got their money from you, right? GeForce Now is only letting you stream that wherever you want on whatever device.
So why are they so against it?
I think it's just that they didn't talk to people, and that's what seems to be the case, is that they kind of assumed that companies would be okay with this because it's not into their profits, and that wasn't 100% true with every company. Some of them are fine with it. A lot of indies don't really give a shit. They're like, whatever. I mean, they already bought the game from me. So it's like they should be able to play it however they want to play it, But a lot of publishers don't feel that way, obviously. And I don't think it's necessarily that they want to get any money out of GeForce Now. It's really just kind of understanding of what, how the game's going to be promoted on the service, or how they'll kind of benefit from it too, kind of thing. So I think that's really where a lot of this is coming from. So I actually think they're going to be fine with this, and it will eventually kind of have everything available. It's just going to take them time to talk to all these companies, because their service is a lot better to me than what Stadia has in terms of their setup. I just think it's a lot better because you can play it for free. You can play like an hour of it at a time for free, which is really cool. And you can pay. It's like, I think it's like $9 a month or something for way more time and a lot more functionality as well. So It's really not that expensive. And yeah, so I'll be interested to see, I guess, like what titles they end up bringing back in the future, as they try to like stem the bleeding of losing all these games. But they said they want everything on Steam to be playable through it, so that's kind of their goal, I think.
Okay.
Which I think this is beneficial, though, for everybody, right? I think it's beneficial for us, obviously, the consumers, but it's also beneficial for the publishers and developers, too, because, I mean, if I can play your game however I want, I'll buy it, you know? It's
exactly.
like I'm not restricted by how I have to play it, you know? Like, that will make it more likely people will buy your game, you know? The more convenient these things are, the easier it's going to be to sell copies, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a important service, but we'll keep monitoring it, I guess. You got any other thoughts on it?
No, I was just really curious of why publishers are pulling out, because it doesn't really seem like it's affecting their money. But now that I got a greater understanding of it, like they really didn't ask. I guess that's a big deal. You have to ask or something like that nature. So I can understand it from that aspect.
I mean, there is an argument to be had here that they're not actually doing anything illegal, in terms of not asking for permission, because the service is not letting you play the game. You have to already own the game. So it's like, it's really just enabling you to play it in a different way. But I guess the way these things work with video games now is that you don't own your digital games. It's all license based. The game is not licensed for you to play it over streaming, you know? Like when you read the user agreement within these games, and Blizzard's games would be the best one to go look at. They literally have a clause in there saying you cannot play this through a streaming service. Like they literally have a clause in there saying that when you purchase the game. So that's kind of the meat of it, what the problem really is here.
Okay.
So they have to allow it, basically. Whether that would hold up in court or not, I don't really know. But okay.
I guess they went into it thinking how a lot of other people think like, oh, once I buy it, it's mine, but it's not yours.
It's not, which we've been saying for a year.
Yeah.
Plus now. So, all right, let's move on. Next story. So there's an article on Bloomberg. This came out a week ago, actually, right after we recorded last week. So they said that they have heard reports that Sony is planning to release the console this year in 2020. However, they are planning to release it with a very low supply. So it will be supply constrained. And the numbers they gave were, here we go. The PS4 sold 7.5 million units in its first 2 quarters, and the company is telling their assembly partners that it wants to make 5 to 6 million of the PS5 in the first 2 quarters of sale for this console. So that is a significant decrease. That's about 20% of 20 to 25% of it, of their sales numbers compared to PS4. So that is pretty significant. And if that's the case, I mean, this is kind of what I was saying back when we first talked about this in terms of them delaying the console. I just really feel like they will do anything they can to get this thing out this year.
I think they're just taking advantage of it, honestly, this situation. I mean, if I was a company, I would probably do that too, but it's just like, it's obvious that they're taking advantage of the situation, of the COVID-19 situation.
Yeah.
I honestly think they weren't prepared. I'm still going with that. I still believe that.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't prepared to be pushed this hard by Microsoft. I think they weren't going to be able. They weren't ready for 2021, in my opinion. Just by the things that I keep reading, and I think they're just using this as leverage. Not only because of this, but the pushbacks and delay for like The Last of Us, and because I'm hearing, I did some reading on that, and a lot of articles are saying that it was actually Sony's decision, not Naughty Dog's decision, to delay that that game. But like Ghost of Tsushima is still slated, and they haven't had any signs of that being pushed back, or No,
that game is really the one that is I find fascinating here. Is like, what are they doing with that?
And people are saying that in March or in May they're going to push it back. Like they're like, well, they're going to push it back. They're going to push it back. But I don't think so. I think they're going to let that game fly. They don't care about that game as much as they care about The Last of Us. And
The Last of Us is the most important game of this generation for them, period.
Yeah, exactly.
And they need to make sure that it sells as many copies as possible. That is their strategy, I think, with it. And whether that means they push it back to PS5's launch, I mean, that's possible. it's just an interesting thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, but I think they're taking advantage of it. I think they're taking advantage of this COVID-19 situation, and no one's seen that because it's Sony. Everyone's like, oh, okay, well, I think Sony's getting a lot of leeway there because of who they are, in my opinion. I feel like if this is like Microsoft and Nintendo, we wouldn't this conversation
they'd be getting destroyed.
Oh yeah, the atmosphere around this would be totally like terrible. It would just be, yeah, it would be like.
I definitely think there's like a bit of a Sony bias, not just in the fans, but I think in the media somewhat too.
Yeah.
I think people definitely have like a preference for Sony, and that just, I feel like that reflects in the media coverage for this thing, is that no one's really criticizing the way they've handled things. It just doesn't feel like they're getting a huge amount of heat for the failures that they've had recently. I know that people were making fun of that, that presentation with Mark Cerny from a few weeks ago, but it's like, that was like, there's a lot more to talk about here than just that, their strategy overall and stuff. So I don't know. I think we're still too early to say for sure definitively that the consoles are coming out this year. I know that keeps being hammered into us, but it's just that these things, this situation is evolving so fast and so rapidly. There's so many variables that could be affected by it that could affect their ability to get the consoles out. Like, do they really want to try to sell a new $500, $550 electronic luxury item in a climate where people are trying to financially recover from this virus? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, maybe
it's too dynamic, it's too explosive right now. Especially we were in the state last week where everyone was kind of okay with it. When everyone was getting their stimulus checks and like unemployment was coming in, everyone was okay. But now that was 1 week ago. But now everyone wants to go back to work, and if that happens, there could be I'm not taking political sides here. I'm just saying scientifically there could be another boom as far as the virus going back up because we haven't had a curve yet.
Right.
So if they release their consoles within that curve or within that peak where it's not peaking yet, then it can be devastating for both Xbox and PlayStation. So yeah, I can expect, like you said, for us not to get the consoles this year, maybe late or early next year, but not this year at all.
Yeah, because dude, think about how fast this happened, right? Like within 2 weeks in March, we went from everything's fine to we're locked down and everybody's working from home. People are losing their jobs left and right. That happened in like a 2-week period. Imagine in October, Sony and Microsoft have shipped out their units. They're all manufactured. They're in the retail store's hands, like in the beginning of November, say. And, the stores have them. They cannot delay the console at that point. So imagine if the same thing happens at the beginning of November and all of a sudden everybody's fucking locked in place again and people are losing their jobs again and nobody wants to spend any money. That could completely fuck everything over. So
yeah,
I don't know, like, the closer we get to it, the more likely it is, obviously, that the consoles will actually launch this year. It's just, I feel like at this point in time, it's impossible to guarantee that.
I think what they may do is they may have like a guaranteed you're going to get the console type deal. Like you can reserve it, and the people who paid out the full $500 or $600, they're going to get the consoles guaranteed. So they may have a guaranteed 2 or 3 million that come out this year for the people that did, take the initiative to reserve it and pay it off in full.
Right.
But for everyone else who just wants to go into the store and buy it, then yeah, that's probably not going to be till later next year.
Right. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, they could definitely do like a staggered launch, or some kind of, like coming out in phases or something like that in different regions even. I could see something like that. I know they want to do the U.S. first, but we're one of the worst countries we are the worst country with COVID. So,
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, who knows if that's a good idea. So it's an evolving situation. It's just interesting. I think this report, is accurate as of last week. But again, like that doesn't mean much given the situation we're in because this can change at any moment. So, yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to March 2020 NPD numbers.
These are
fascinating.
This is what I've been waiting to talk to you about.
This is fascinating. This was a fascinating month, everybody. So I'm going to go over the total overall numbers here. So total video game sales, March for March 2020 versus 2019. So in 2020, $1.597 billion in revenue versus $1.186 billion last year. That is a 35% increase. Video game hardware was $461 million versus $282 last year. So that's a 63% increase. Video game software, physical and full digital formats from all the major players. $739 million versus $550 million last year. That's a 34% increase. And then game accessories and game cards, $397 million versus $354 last year, 12% increase. So this is in very stark contrast to what we've been seeing the last fucking 12 months, I feel like.
Yeah.
We've had severe dips in sales numbers for a while across the board in the entire industry as people are getting ready for the next generation, basically. And, I mean, is there any other explanation than COVID here?
No. I mean, because people are prepared to stay inside, so they have more time to play video games and try things out. And yeah, why not buy some hardware that's going to help you out with that?
Shit, maybe this is proof positive though that they should release the consoles this year no matter what, right?
Yeah.
I mean, shit, dude. Switches are sold out. You can't even get a Nintendo Switch right now. They're out of stock fucking everywhere.
Really?
Because people are buying them up, dude.
I just went to Walmart the other day and they had the Switch Lights.
Man, okay, they had the Switch Lite. Well,
yeah.
I think it was the regular Switch I was reading about, but hold on. Let me find the quote in here about Switch because, hold on. I guess I'll talk about that after I go through the 20 best-selling games. So,
okay.
20 best-selling games for the month in the U.S. So, Animal Crossing, New Horizons. We're going to talk about this one specifically afterwards here. Number 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Number 3, MLB The Show 20. Number 4, Resident Evil 3. Number 5, NBA 2K20. Number 6, Doom Eternal. Number 7, Persona 5 Royal. Wow. That was what? That's crazy, dude. That was on the market for 1 day in March.
Really?
1 day. Yeah, it was the 31st is when it came out, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Number 8, Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, fucking God.
Number 9, Borderlands 3. Number 10, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the game that will never die. Number 11, Neo 2. Number 12, Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 13, FIFA 20. Number 14, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 15, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. Number 16, Madden NFL 20. Number 17, Just Dance 2020. What the hell? Number 18, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Wow, that game keeps on keeping on. Number 19, Mortal Kombat 11. And number 20, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered. What? Why is that 20? How is that 20? That's insanity. All right. So let's get into the specifics here. So Animal Crossing, New Horizons. This game is a fucking smash hit. So I'm going to read the quote here from the article. Quote, Animal Crossing, New Horizons was the best-selling game of March 2020 and the second best-selling game of 2020 year to date. Animal Crossing New Horizons achieved the third highest launch month physical dollar and unit sales of any Nintendo published game in tracked history. Among Nintendo published games, only Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Super Smash Bros. Brawl debuted with higher physical software sales in a launch month, which means that it has had a better launch month than any Mario or Zelda game since NPD started tracking sales. End quote.
That is fucking insane.
Absolutely bonkers. And another part here, this game has exceeded the lifetime sales of all other Animal Crossing franchise games.
Making
it the best-selling game in franchise history.
The last game, New Horizons, or New Dawn.
New Leaf?
New Leaf, I'm sorry, New Leaf. So 5 to 8 million? Mm-hmm. It wasn't, it sold a decent amount. So that is a lot.
Yeah, this is insane. I mean, this has clearly become, this is instantaneously one of the biggest IPs Nintendo has. It always kind of was, but it always felt like it wasn't, but I think the combination of COVID versus people's hype for this game has just launched it into a stratosphere that I would have never expected for it. Like, I would have expected this game to sell well, but not this well.
You remember I told you there is a strict fan base for this game that is devoted to this game.
Yep.
And they probably got their friends to play it and everything of that nature. This game is like The Sims, but Nintendo style. And The Sims is really popular. So I can only imagine how this game, it has that little cute anime feel to it. So it appeals to a lot of people that The Sims may not, grab. It's not particularly my type of game, but I know people who just absolutely love this type of shit. And it's a very shareable game, like, the experiences people have with it and the characters and everything of that nature. It's very social media heavy as far as like sharing your clips.
It was all over Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter, Reddit, and everything like that. So
I do feel like it's definitely fallen off in the last week or two. I'm seeing a lot less of it than I was, but dude, that launch week was nuts. I could not go on Twitter without seeing like 5 clips of this game, and I don't even follow that many people. Like, I'm not like somebody that has like 500 people I follow. Like, I follow like 50 or 60, and it was just all over my feed constantly. So that game had huge penetration for the month, and looking at the top 10 games for the year so far, it's number 2 behind Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is number 1. Number 3 is Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. 4 is NBA 2K20. 5 is MLB The Show 20, which is impressive. Number 6 is Grand Theft Auto 5. Like, what? Oh, my God. Number 7 is Resident Evil 3. Number 8 is Madden NFL 20. 9, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And 10 is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I mean, that is pretty crazy. A lot of those games are like, from last year, obviously. But, yeah, Animal Crossing jumping to number 2 already right out of the gate. That is really impressive.
I'm interested in seeing the lifetimes. The rest of the year, the game's going to fall off really hard.
Yeah, we'll definitely be monitoring that for sure. I will be interested to see where it ends up at the end of the year because, we got some heavy hitters. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out this month. Like, this game could vault to number 1 instantaneously.
Well, I did read that it already sold 3 to 4 million within the first 3 days of the game.
That's bonkers, dude. And people couldn't even get a hold of physical copies of it.
Yeah, I had to get digital. I couldn't get it physical.
That's crazy. I did get it physical. I managed to get it physical, but yeah, that's absolutely crazy, dude. Like, so yeah, but MLB The Show 20 though, there is a little blurb on this. It is the fastest selling game in MLB The Show franchise history, which with launch month sales significantly exceeding those of the previous best MLB The Show 19. And this one, this one obviously has got to be impacted by COVID too, but in a different way. Not just the fact that people are looking for something to play, but the fact that sports are canceled right now.
Yeah.
I think people are really looking for sports games, and like this might be the best time a sports game could have ever chosen to launch. Like, seriously. Like with MLB, the anticipation for the season just getting canceled outright. Like, people are looking for their baseball fix, man. And this game delivers that in a very real way because it is a sim. Like, it's a baseball simulation versus, more arcadey sports games. So I think that's definitely to Sony's benefit. So that's crazy. And think about that. If you know how they're going multi-plat, imagine if they had gone multi-plat this year on top of that. It would have been insane.
Probably one of the best selling.
Dude, this game could have been close to the top. Top of the list for the year so far. So I think this game is going to be huge when it goes multi-plat, but it's interesting to see how healthy it is right now. So, okay. Otherwise, yeah. So I did see the part about, I didn't find anything about in this specific article about the Switch, but from what I understand, what I read elsewhere, Switch sales are the best since the console launched in March of 2017. For the month, like the March 2020 was the best month for the hardware since March 2017. So it's been absolutely bonkers. And I think
that's wild.
Even PlayStation and Xbox are way up for the month, for this month versus, previous months recently. So COVID is having an impact. So sales are up, but production is down. That seems fair to say.
Yeah.
With a lot of games getting delayed. So all right, let's move on. Final story this week. This is a game reveal. So Crysis, kind of I'd almost say like a legendary PC game at this point. I never played it personally, but it is so ingrained in PC culture.
I'm so glad you said that, because I never played this game.
I never played it either, but dude, it is so ingrained.
One time when it was on it came out on the 360, and I played it, and I turned it off after I played it for like an hour or two.
But dude, it's so ingrained in PC culture. Like, people still use it to benchmark somewhat, like that's how fucking insane this game is. This game came out in 2007, and well, let me get to the story first. So Crysis Remastered was officially revealed. They didn't have much of a trailer. The game was leaked, and honestly, it looks like they put a trailer together really fast because there's no gameplay in the trailer. So I don't think they intended for it to get revealed, but they just kind of did it because it got leaked. So, but yeah, so it's supposedly coming this summer. It's going to be on all the major platforms plus PC. They're going to be doing a significant upgrade to it. It's not like a remake, but they're going to be doing new lighting effects, some new textures and stuff for it. So, but yeah, this game came out in 2007. And it's a first-person shooter, and it has a story-driven story campaign. I think it also has multiplayer as well. But the reason this game is so important, though, is not really because of the game itself, like the actual game. Like, it's because this game was the benchmark for PC gaming in terms of really pushing your PC to its limit for, I'd say, till like 2014 or 2015 when The Witcher came out.
Yeah, when The Witcher became the benchmark.
Right, yeah, and Witcher became the benchmark, which it pretty much still is. And dude, this game was insane. Like, it would bring PCs to their knees for years. Even top of the line shit. This game was crazy ahead of its time in terms of graphics. Like, it was completely absurd. And it's to the point though, like, this game has some really cool ideas though. You play a character that wears like this exosuit, and it has powers. Like, you can go invisible, super speed, super strength, all sorts of interesting stuff that other games kind of took design from, like Halo did a little bit with Reach, I think, a couple years later. And I actually kind of want to play this, dude. Like, I'm kind of in the mood for like a story-driven first-person shooter because we don't really get those anymore. Yeah. So I may check this out, honestly.
I just remember like that being the meme on like 4chan and everything like that. Well, can it run Crysis? And then
well, they're putting it on Switch, man. And I don't know if Switch can hang with this game, man. I don't know.
But they put it on the 360, so I think the Switch can handle it.
Yeah, but come on, man. It was like heavily reduced for those consoles. It was. Right. You know it was. Like, but yeah, no, I'm excited for it to come out. I really may check it out because, like I said, the first person shooter campaign feels almost dead at this point. For the most part, like I don't feel like very many games come out in the FPS world that have a story driven campaign. Most of them are just multiplayer games. For the most part,
I say
Titanfall, like Titanfall 2.
Not necessarily true. I mean, you got Wolfenstein 2, Wolfenstein 1, Doom
Titanfall 2. Yeah, Doom, that's true. Doom Eternal. Like I said, Titanfall 2, because that's an FPS.
2, yeah.
That's an FPS. Let's see, this is the thing though. We're already struggling. Like we're we're hitting our limit on how many have come up. Like I'm
pretty sure there's enough out there.
I don't count like Dishonored. I don't really consider that like an FPS. It's like that's like a first person action game.
Yeah.
I don't count like Deus Ex or those. That's like
I mean that is a first person shooter though.
Yeah, so. But it's not a shooter though. It's not really a shooter. It's like a stealth game.
Shooter.
It's a stealth game. It's an adventure stealth game. Come on, man. I'm just talking in like the realm that Crysis was in. Okay, I guess like Far Cry is another example. I guess.
Yeah, but that was like what 2016 maybe. 2017.
No, they had one like last year.
Oh yeah, Far Cry 5, which was a disaster. I forgot about that game.
Yeah, and then they had New Dawn, didn't they, last year? 5 was 2 years ago. Far Cry 5 was 2 years ago, I think, and then New Dawn was last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, that's how bad it was. I forgot about it.
So okay, I'm exaggerating. It's not dead, but there's definitely like a style that these games had that I feel like is not around anymore, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, like they just strictly focused on
story, right?
They focused on the single player first, and then the multiplayer was an afterthought.
Yeah, like I would say Doom is probably the one that really like recaptures this kind of essence more than anything. So I don't know. I just kind of want to like dabble in that realm, and it's a cool game that's like so steeped in PC lore that I kind of like just almost feel obligated to play it. As somebody in PC gaming, so I'll probably check it out. All right. That's it for news. I got a few more notes here, delays that I saw this past week. So Digimon Survive, which looks like I think a tactical strategy Digimon game, has been delayed indefinitely due to COVID. Death Stranding's PC release has been delayed to June. And Baldur's Gate 3, the developers have said, has been impacted by COVID-19, but they still are on track for a 2020 release. So hopefully that stays true throughout the rest of the year. Otherwise, let's move on to game releases. Not much this week. Now that we're past Final Fantasy VII, I don't even know what the next major release is. Like Xenoblade Chronicles, I guess, on Switch. I'd say. I'm trying to think of what else there is in the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, when does that come out? When does the Xenoblade come out?
It's May 31st, end of the month.
Okay.
But yeah, otherwise it seems like mostly indies for the most part. That's mostly what I'm seeing. So, anything jumping out to you though?
No, not really. I did. Well, this is a rumor. I don't know if you saw that rumor about Days Gone coming to PC. It was on the Amazon French site.
I think that was debunked.
Pulled. Yeah.
I think Sony debunked it, didn't they?
Yeah. They pulled it from the site. So a lot of people were PlayStation fans and PlayStation, I call it PlayStation Twitter, was up in flames for about a good hour.
Yeah.
Before they came out and said that no, it's not coming out. But it's pretty funny how some people do not want games to be on PC.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that with Horizon. It just seems I still don't get it. I just like, why are you so like pearl clutchy about this? You know, like what does it matter? Who cares?
I feel like it's more money for the game that you like, so therefore you have a better chance at the game.
The studio you like.
Yeah, and another game coming out within that series or franchise or something of that nature.
Dude, it's just an immature, childish, I don't want to share my toys mentality. That's what it is. That's all it is. There's no other way to say it, you know? Like, I don't think there's another way to say it, personally. Like,
you're right.
That's all it is to me. That's all it is. There's no logical reason for them to be so angry about it. Like, it makes no sense. Like, they feel like they're betrayed. Like, what are they betraying? They're a company trying to make money, dude. Like, and like Montrell said, more sales of your game means you're going to get another one of your game. Like, be happy about that. That's it.
Yeah, because there are a lot of franchises that are on ice that are really good, but because of sales.
Fucking Deus Ex.
Yeah.
Dude, put that shit everywhere so it can sell, okay? I would give up my left nut for another Deus Ex game. Like, so be happy that your game is coming to PC, that it's popular enough, that the company thinks it will sell enough, that they're willing to port it to PC. That means your game series is in a healthy state. Don't take that for granted, okay?
Yeah, but I don't really see anything that stays out to me.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
Hey,
I was thinking about getting Persona Royal.
Yeah.
But I mean, I already got Persona and I didn't beat it yet, so.
Yeah, I'm in a weird spot, I guess. Like, I'm really into Final Fantasy VII. I'm going to beat that really soon. But after that, I'm like I said, I'm thinking about getting back into Mass Effect to kind of finish those games. But, I mean, that's a lot of game to finish. So, I don't know how much I could necessarily commit to that. But then, like, I want to get Persona 5. I need to get back to Neo 2, like you said. And then there's backlog games that I've been thinking about lately that I really want to play, like Divinity Original Sin 2 and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, because I feel like I have months now in front of me where I could really, like, knock some games out,
I know. That's what I'm trying to take advantage of this time.
Yeah.
I know it's a bad time, but, like, I'm really trying to take advantage of this time where I can just knock a lot of these games out.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I really want to. I want my year. If everything goes according to plan, which may not happen, I want myself to go into 2021 clear, like everything.
Oh,
and I'm
God, that's impossible, dude. That's impossible, dude. There's no way. I mean, maybe for you, not for me. There's no way. As I said, I'm looking at my pile right now, and it's like 2 feet tall. I mean, it's got Neo 2 and Final Fantasy VII on top, you know. And then I got Catherine down there. I do have Mass Effect in there though. Andromeda, it's still in the pile. It's at the bottom.
Yeah, you know what? That game is not as bad as I thought it was. It's just I really want you to play that game. I'm really interested in your opinion on that game.
I'm gonna give it a chance. I do want to play it, so I think in the immediate future I'm gonna play Final Fantasy VII, finish that, and then I think I'm gonna split between Neo 2 and Mass Effect probably, and play both at the same time, one on PC and then the other on PlayStation.
Okay.
And try to get through those simultaneously. And then once I can do that, I'm in the clear, dude. Like, I know Xenoblade's coming out, but I'm not sure I'm going to jump immediately into that. So I'm kind of like in a spot where I'll have a huge chunk of time to just play whatever I want. And Persona might be it. That might be the next one. Because I have to play that game at some point. It's been on the backlog for 3 years. So
I'm still on the fence about buying what game is coming out this week, actually, week of recording. Trials of Mana. I might I might buy that. The game looks pretty interesting. I'm not sure yet. I gotta look at it some more. Outside the combat. The combat I like the action style combat, but I want to see how the story is and everything of that nature.
Right. So there's a lot of games to play, but we have a lot of time to play them right now. So I'm going to take advantage of it and enjoy it. Really enjoying Final Fantasy VII, and I hope every game I play is that good, which is not ever going to be true, but I can hope. A man can dream. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it there. That's going to be the end of the show this week. So if you like the show, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you are listening to it on. And if you could, please share it with your friends. We would really appreciate that. If you'd like to interact with either one of us, you can do so on Twitter at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at ThunderNut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And those questions, I need to reiterate this because I haven't been saying this. Those questions, we will read them on the show. So send us a question, and we will answer it on the show. That's the kind of questions I'm looking for on the Twitter or the email, okay? Okay, send us a question about a game, about Final Fantasy VII, about a game you're playing, whatever the fuck. Montrell and I have a large breadth of knowledge within the video game industry, and we want to interact with people. So send us questions. We would appreciate that. Otherwise, that's all I got, man. Next week, I don't know. We're definitely going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake more. Hopefully some news happens, but if not, we'll have a topic of the show, I'm sure, or something along those lines. So, yeah. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you on the next one. All right? Bye, guys.
See you.